So right now we are inside the Mother Temple, the portrait of Dawn and Gemma that also, for me, kind of feels like a little miniature sort of, I call it like a temple space because it's, someplace you enter and reflect and sit and, look up at the ceiling. And I wanted the space to feel comforting and holding, but then there's also the honeycombs. Those are really sort of a comforting image. It's like about life and about, creation, but also, there's a lot of anxiety because the honeybees have been dying in the past decade. And if we lose the honeybees, we lose our entire food chain. And so I think, sometimes when I begin to really think about love and nurturing, I'm also really aware of the anxieties that come with being alive and trying to survive. And so I sometimes feel like perhaps in an artwork, but even just in our day-to-day thoughts, that kind of one thing always comes with another, and that a complete thought tends to include its opposite. And so there is a way in which this temple that's about nurturing and life and mothering really is also very much a reflection on the frailty of life and on danger and peril and death and the cycle of life and death. And let's go outside and we can talk a little more about that kind of life and death cycle in the piece. So how this portrait kind of came about is my mom passed away in 2013. She became sick with cancer, and I was back and forth to Florida just helping take care of her and just spending time with her as I could. And I was deeply in the middle of grieving the loss of my mom, and also kind of reckoning with a lot of the ways that my mom hadn't been a classical mom because she had struggled with drug addiction and instability. And so there was sort of this double grieving that I was going through. And at that moment, I went down to the beach because I just needed a break. And I was just in the ocean kind of, having a little moment. And I looked up and I saw a pregnant woman, huge pregnant. And I looked over and we looked at each other and I was like, oh my God, that's like my childhood friend. And I haven't seen her in a long time. And I ran over to her and I gave her the biggest hug. And it was like, it just felt like this homecoming of like this old friend. And she had 2 kids with her and she was big pregnant. And she was such a good mom, and reconnecting with her while my mom was passing away and seeing this like nurturing force who was able to be a friend and was able to be loving to her kids. It was like kind of part of my healing process of, in that grief. And so I kind of drew this, this understanding of big love and of big nurturing as I was also drawing the portrait of my own mom. And you can see that, this is kind of inspired by Kate Kolwitz's drawing where death takes the mother, and you see kind of the skeleton. And so here it's like the kind of aged, my mom, she's got the tubes in because she's on oxygen, and she's sort of taking her youthful self from her. And there's sort of this kind of cycle of life and death that's happening within the piece.